one is, yeah. Yes. So is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
now Indian knowledge system we shall be discussing. Whenever we hear the word knowledge, no, what exactly is knowledge? Now there are certain terminology which we need to understand. First thing is the data. Anything, any kind of written or unwritten or symbol or anything, such kind of things are called data. And when data is processed, that becomes information. And when two or more informations are interlinked and some inferences are drawn, that becomes knowledge. So first thing is the data. We should have certain data, then that data needs to be processed, that will become information. Data has to be converted into information, and when information is applied using some other information in the data, so that application of data information is knowledge, and application of knowledge is wisdom. So data, information, knowledge, and then wisdom. The application of knowledge is wisdom. And when we talk about this knowledge, it refers to the vast and diverse body of knowledge that originated and developed in the Indian subcontinent over millennia. Now, here the knowledge we are talking about is, and the knowledge that the word Indian. Now, the word Indian itself have huge impact, different meanings. What exactly is Indian? Is it the current political boundary of India? That is Indian? Or the pre-British Indian? Or even before that, because during the time of Chandragupta and Asoka, Indian, the country called India, Bharatvarsha, it was from Turkey to up till Vietnam, it was only India. Are we talking about that India? Or we are talking about India which is just before the British era, that is we are talking about this Indian subcontinent and the knowledge which actually have grown up during this Indian subcontinent. And when we utter the word Indian, basically we are meaning these SAARC countries: India, Pakistan, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Myanmar, Afghanistan, all these countries, they are called SAARC countries, and Indian subcontinent basically consists of all these countries. So here when we utter the word Indian, it's not the current India. The India which is the current political map of India, Indian subcontinent, means if any knowledge which is now prevailing or promoted in Pakistan, that is also actually part of our Indian knowledge system. Similarly, any knowledge that is actually being practiced in Bangladesh or Nepal or Afghanistan or Sri Lanka, all these are primarily part of our India and Indian knowledge system. And it encompasses a wide array of disciplines, philosophies, and practices. It's not only one discipline. That if you talk about the Indian knowledge system, it's not only about the philosophy, it's not only about the technology, it's not only about medicine, or it's not only about uh, arts and the other practices. It's a wide range of areas are there. And when we'll get to know in the coming slides that how vast that Indian knowledge system is. It's just ocean of knowledge, and it has profoundly influenced human civilization, because the oldest living civilization on earth is the still it is the Indus Valley civilization. So many civilizations have came and they have just vanished from the earth, but it is only this Indian civilization, Indus Valley civilization, or Indian civilization, still it is surviving, because we have developed something. We had some knowledge which actually has helped us in surviving till today. Indian knowledge system represents a dynamic and evolving tradition of inquiry, observation, and wisdom. Wisdom, the word that just now I have talked, that wisdom is application of knowledge, is wisdom. And that wisdom, to acquire that wisdom, we don't require any formal knowledge. We don't require the modern university degrees. Anyone can be the wise man. Simply, condition is that that person should have the ability and quality to apply certain knowledge. A farmer working in the field, he is more wise than a person who is actually pursuing some research in agricultural field, because simply looking at the clouds and the wind, that farmer is able to predict the quality and the quantity of rainfall. So the farmer is more wise because he is able to draw some inferences based on some information. The information is the clouds and the wind. He is able to draw some knowledge, and he is able to do that. So that is wisdom. Just a minute, one phone is coming urgent.
Actually, our resource
Yes.
people are busy. Yes, sir.
Hello.
40
Yeah,
minutes, sir.
sorry.
It's okay, sir. It's okay.
So it's wisdom. Then our Indian knowledge system is not only based on some documented sources, that also we'll get to know in the coming slides. It is some kind of inquiry, some kind of observations. Observations are also part of our Indian knowledge system. And when we come to this historical context of Indian knowledge system, because anything that we understand, that we study, first of all we need to understand the historical part of that. What is the history of that subject or that discipline? And I believe that history is one of the subject that is most important, and even if it is required in medical science. And why in medical science? Because a doctor cannot treat a patient without knowing its history. So history is very important. So when we actually talk about Indian knowledge system, so we must understand, we must know the history of our Indian knowledge system. And the history of Indian knowledge system, it can be traced back to the ancient times with evidence found in Indus Valley civilization. And whenever we utter the word Indian knowledge system or India, we know that actually it is the Indus Valley civilization, one of the oldest civilization in the world. And from there, we have now at this stage. By the way, many of my students, they get confused between the word civilization and culture. That civilization, what is civilization and what is culture? And it is simply the differences of the hardware and software. The tangible part is the civilization and intangible part is the culture. So when we talk about Indus Valley civilization, basically we talk about the civil engineering part, and from this civilization, that civil engineering, that the construction of roads, irrigation system, houses, and all these things are actually part of that civilization. How people used to draw water, how people used to walk, how people used to travel, how people used to build houses, what was the civil aviation or the irrigation system, the transportation system. All these things, all these parts are actually coming under the domain of civilization. And when we are uttering the word Indus Valley civilization, it means that we are talking about the entire civil engineering part. We are talking about this entire transportation part. We are talking about this irrigation and agriculture and everything. It means that our agriculture or civil engineering or the construction, real estate, everything was at certain level during that time period, and that's why it has been called the oldest civilization of the world. And it has developed and flourished through the Vedic period. And again, during this Vedic period, we have 4 Vedas. But again, this Vedic period is divided between 2 parts: uh, Rig Vedic period and post Rig Vedic. Because out of these 4 Vedas, Rig Ved is the oldest one. Rig Ved is the one which was, I would not say that it was written first, but actually it arrived first. Because why I'm not uttering the word that Rig Vedas are not is the first word to be first Veda to be written, because Vedas are not written, and that's why they are called uh, Apauruseya, because they have not been written by one person or one individual or one organization. It is a set of people over a period of time. They are practicing something, they are speaking something, and ultimately the entire part is being compiled into one thing. And that when later on some binding has been done, and or some saints, when this the style of writing has developed, somebody have coded it, and that becomes part one Veda. So Rig Veda is the first Veda to be written, and this entire history of this Vedic period is divided between Rig Vedic period and post Rig Vedic period. And when we utter the word post Rig Vedic period, it is basically we are talking about this three Vedas: Samved, Atharved, and Ayurved, Ajarved. So these are the three Vedas, uh, that is post Rig Vedic, and the pre Rig Vedic is the Rig Vedic. So this is the Vedic period. And then after this Vedic period, it is the ages of Upanishads. Now, those who are not familiar, because this is a galaxy of learned people, so I will not go into that detail, but still I dare to just comment for those people who are actually my new friends who are attending this workshop. Upanishads are actually part of the Vedas only. All the Vedas have four parts. Okay, first part is called Samhita. Samhita means some rules and regulations. Second part is called Brahman. Yes, Brahman is not a caste or Varna. Brahman is one part of the Veda. The four parts, Vedas are actually bifurcated into four parts. First part is the Samhita. Second part is Brahman. Third part is Aranyak. And the fourth part is Upanishads. First part, that is the Samhita, these are uh, considering some rules and regulations just to lead a human life. How to lead a normal human life, and there are certain rules and regulations that needs to be taken care of, and that part is actually being covered in Samhita. Second is Brahman. Brahman is the rules and regulations and procedures of doing some karma kanda. And later on, the people who are involved in doing all this karma kanda and completing all these religious procedures, they are collectively called as Brahmans. And the third one is Aranyak. Aranyak is for those people who are living in jungles, and these are the rules and regulations for those people. So this first three part is simply knowledge and nothing philosophical, but the fourth part is the Upanishads. And Upanishads are, my dear friends, it's pure philosophy, extreme form of philosophy. And since Upanishads are actually the end of the Vedas, these are given at the end of the Vedas, that is in Hindi or in Sanskrit, it is वेदों के अंत में उपनिषद है, तो वेदों का अंत जो है वो वेदांत, and from here that Vedantic philosophy emerges. Upanishads are again, these are the ant of Veda, so Vedo ka ant, Upanishads, that is Vedant, and Vedant is nothing but the Upanishads. And then the rise of various philosophical schools like Nyaya Darshan, Vaisesik Darshan, Sankhya Darshan, Yoga Darshan, Mimamsa Darshan, and this last one is the Vedanta. Now, Nyaya, Vaisesik, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, and Vedanta, these are the different darshans, different philosophical schools, and the three other schools are like Jainism, Buddhism, and Charvakism. Now, why actually I kept it in two brackets? In first bracket, it is the Nyaya, Vaisesik, Sankhya, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. In the second bracket, it is the Jainism, Buddhism, and Charvakism. And the reason being, there are two broad classifications of Indian philosophy. One is Astik Darshan and another is Nastik Darshan. And we know that Indian philosophy, it emerges from the Vedas. Vedas and Upanishads are at the core. So this Nastik Darshan, this is second bracket, Jainism, Buddhism and Charvakism, this came later on. Just after this Vedic Darshan, this second phase of Jainism, Buddhism and Charvakism came, and these are called Nastik Darshan. Now, who is a Nastik? And actually the English meaning of Nastik is atheist, but here we do not mean atheist with the term Nastik. Now, who is Nastik? Nastik means the person who do not consider Vedas as the authentic source of knowledge, and means the authentic source of knowledge is somewhere else, and that becomes Nastik. It's not that Amitabh Bachchan's Nastik, that खुश तो आज बहुत होगे तुम. It's not that Nastik. The Jainism, Buddhism and Charvakism, all these three philosophies, they believe that Vedas are not the ultimate source of knowledge or the authentic source of knowledge, and that's why they are considered to be called collectively as the Nastik Darshan. And against this Nastik Darshan, to re-establish this Vedic philosophy, the third phase of Indian philosophy is Nyaya Darshan, Vaisesik, Sankhya philosophy, Yoga, Mimamsa and Vedanta. These darshans have emerges. Okay, and they are called Astik Darshan. Astik means I have an astha in Vedas, and I consider Vedas as the authentic source of knowledge, and that's why these fixed darshans are collectively called as Astik Darshan. And this knowledge was often transmitted orally through Gurukul system and later documented in extensive textual traditions. Now, this was often transmitted orally because simple thing is that why it has to be transmitted orally? Because human being learned speaking much before the invention of paper and the alphabets. Okay, we have been speaking maybe the historians and this anthropologists say that Neolithic revolution, that is when human being started cultivation, that Neolithic revolution started 10,000 years back, and prior to that we have started speaking. We have developed the power of speeches, but writing, it was developed later on. First of all, we have written some codes, some alphabets, and the paper was developed, paper was invented much later. Okay, so definitely the knowledge has to be transmitted orally because there was no paper. Through Gurukul system, you know it, and later documented in extensive textual traditions, because when paper was invented, then it was documented in all those texts, but first it was oral transmission. And that's why in the very first line I told that these Vedas were not written, rather they were spoken, they were chanted, they were practiced. Okay, and later on they were compiled into some books and they have been named as, okay, Rig Veda or Samved and so on and so forth. Fine. And there are two terms used for this oral traditions. One is called Shruti and another is called Smriti. Shruti means what actually have been heard. So this is one way of transmitting knowledge, that we have heard something from our ancestors, from our gurus, from our teachers, something we have heard and that has been remembered. So that is Shruti. Shruti means to hear. And the second one is Smriti, that whatever we have heard, we have memorized it. Okay, or whatever we have seen, we have memorized it. So Shruti and Smriti, these are the two traditions of transmitting knowledge, and that is the oral transmission without any pen and paper or any, obviously no computers. Shruti and Smriti. Now, when we talk about Indian philosophy, history is known, and then we must understand what are the branches of Indian philosophy or what are the domains of Indian philosophy, Indian knowledge system. And it is the first part is the philosophy. Because when we talk about Indian knowledge system, so the one thing that have mesmerized the world from India is the philosophy. Okay, and we have such a huge contribution to the philosophy that the entire world philosophy is divided into two parts broadly: Indian philosophy and non-Indian philosophy. Why I'm calling it non-Indian philosophy? Because many people call it as Western philosophy, and while talking about Western philosophy, even they consider Japan as part of the Western philosophy. Japanese philosophy is also considered as the Western philosophy, or such certain philosophies, certain things developed in Australia, they are also considered as a part of Western philosophy. And if you know geography, you must be knowing that Japan is not in the West, Japan is in the East. Australia is not on the West, Australia is actually to the almost southern part of India. But when we speak the word Western philosophy, all the philosophy other than India is clubbed into one bracket, and it is called Western philosophy and Indian philosophy. Then we'll consider this philosophy. And what is philosophy? Okay, the word philosophy is derived from the Greek word philia, that is love, and sophia, that is wisdom. It means love of wisdom. And again, there's another philosophy that two words are not the perfect substitute of each other. Any two words are not perfect synonyms of each other. Now, how? For example, roti, roti is not bread. But when we have to do certain translation, we simply write roti equal to bread. But roti is not bread, my friend. Roti is roti and bread is bread. Similarly, philosophy and the Indian word used for philosophy is darshan. Okay, darshan shastra. Now, darshan is not philosophy. Darshan is how actually you look at the thing. Darshan is to see, how you see at the things. Okay, somebody see at the tree and start writing poetry. Somebody start at the apple and ultimately invented or they discovered the law of gravitation. Somebody looking at the waves and invented certain theories on the waves or the wave transmission. Okay, so this darshan and philosophy, they are simply because in Hindi or any Indian word in Sanskrit, there was no perfect substitute or perfect synonyms for darshan shastra in English, and that's why philosophy, we have that the most closest term that is coming closer to darshan shastra is philosophy, and we have kept it. Some of the philosophies like existentialism, phenomenological realism, ideological, Christian philosophy, Muslim philosophy, Sikh philosophy, Jain philosophy, Buddhist philosophy. Okay, these are certain philosophies we are encountering, and putting the nature of the universe, including meaning, people, and relationship, into an understandable or explainable perspective, and this is called philosophy. That is putting the nature of universe. We are talking about universe, including its meaning. Then if we are talking about universe, definitely there will be people, and universe and people, then there will be relationship between the people and universe, and into an understandable or explainable perspective. Universe, people, and their relationship has to be placed into an understandable and explainable perspective, and that becomes philosophy. Okay, so this is Newton. He has seen apple falling from the tree and he has discovered law of gravitation. Gautam Buddha, on the same night, he has seen somebody is falling ill, somebody is getting old, somebody is dying, and somebody is very happy. Ultimately, every day we used to see all these things, but ultimately it was Gautam Buddha only who has seen all these things, and his mind started striking why people are getting old, why people are getting ill, why people are dying, and why somebody is very happy, the saint is very happy. And he started searching answer to all those questions. Ultimately, the world came to know about his search in the form of Buddhist philosophy. Okay, somebody, this is one English poet, and he has started looking at the trees. Robert, like this Mr. Frost. Okay, he is looking at the trees, and simply looking at the tree he can write some poetry. I also used to see tree, but I cannot write poetry. But many people simply looking at the tree can write poetry. They can see some other perspective on the tree, and this is how this philosophy emerges. And one thing is that anything, first of all, it starts with philosophy, and then we start some experimentation, some search into that field, and later on we used to get the truth about that part, and that becomes a part of science. So in one way, if we have to define the relationship between science and philosophy, and the answer would be that the answer to whatever is known to us, that becomes science, and whatever is not known, we try to find some relationship between the unknowns, and that can be done using some philosophy. And that's why the universe, okay, cosmos, cosmology is a part of philosophy, but astrophysics is a part of science, because astrophysics deals with only those parts, those variables which are explainable using the scientific principles, which are studied, which are known, and that becomes part of our astrophysics. But that part which is not understandable, which we are not yet able to explore, that becomes part of our cosmology, cosmos. And from here, there are different branches of philosophy. And the first branch of philosophy is metaphysics. Now, what is metaphysics, my dear friends? Physics means the reality. What is physics? Anything which can be touched, which can be felt. Okay, that becomes physics. And metaphysics, meta is that is beyond that. Physics is reality, and meta is beyond reality. So anything which is beyond reality, that becomes called metaphysics. Like we are using this computer. This is physics. But why this computer is working? There will be certain logic behind that. Not all similarly looking elements, similarly looking objects work as a computer. Means there is something which is beyond its visibility. Okay, that becomes part of metaphysics. There is an electricity, and when the same electricity is placed in a computer, it performs differently. When the same electricity is plugged into tube light, it performs differently. When the same electricity is inserted into some printer, it is performing differently. Why this difference is happening? This is part of metaphysics, that is beyond reality. When the same thing we place it in biology, there is a philosophy for biology, metaphysics for biology, metaphysics for literature, metaphysics for cosmology, metaphysics for chemistry, metaphysics for management, metaphysics for philosophy. What is visible, that is physics. What is not visible beyond that, that is metaphysics. Okay. Then ontology, ecclesiology, cosmology, cosmogony, and theology. Theology is that part which deals with the existence of God, and the such other things. That is theology. Then second part is the epistemology. We'll deal with this in the second slide. Next slide. Epistemology is the science of knowledge. Then logic. We know that there are different forms of logic: inductive logic and deductive logic, or abductive logic. We'll also discuss. Axiology basically deals with ethics and aesthetic sense and morality. Okay, so every philosophy have certain ethical part, certain aesthetics, that is a sense of beauty, and morality. And then philosophy also, politics also have philosophy, that is authoritarian, democracy, oligopoly, or monarchy. These are the different philosophies of politics. So these are the different branches of philosophy. So what is metaphysics? It is philosophical discipline concerned with exploring the basic principle that govern the nature of reality. And it explores abstract concept to gain a deeper understanding of the world and the universe, with the goal of uncovering the truth that are not easily seen in everyday life. Not in everyday life. And my dear friends, like most of you will be the researcher or young researchers, and one clue, simple clue I am giving you. Many a time my students came, they used to come to me and ask, sir, how to write that statement of the problem. And the simplest thing that you can tell your student is that choose a topic and keep on asking certain question. Why? Like, what is this? You'll find some answer. Why this is happening? You'll find some answer. Why this is happening? You'll find some answer. And keep on asking those questions. Why? And a point will come that you will not be getting that answer. And that will be your statement of the problem. That will be your research question. And that is actually the metaphysics that is not known. And as a research scholar, you are supposed to find answer to that research question, and that will be your metaphysical question. Okay, like in management, why customers are satisfied, whether customers are satisfied or not. Okay, customers are not satisfied. Why they are not satisfied? Because the product is not good. Why the product is not good? Because the machine is not good. Why the machine is not good? Because the raw materials are not good. Why the raw material not good? Because the supply chain is defective. Why supply chain is defective? Because Russia and Ukraine war has destructed the supply chain. Why Russia and Ukraine war? Because of some NATO. Why NATO? And ultimately keep on asking questions, and at a point will come that will stop getting answer to all those questions, and that will be your metaphysics. Simply you have to now govern it. Next is epistemology. Epistemology is actually a branch of philosophy only, and it deals with the theory of knowledge, especially with regard to its methods, validity, scope, and distinction between the justified belief and opinion. Theory of knowledge. And theory of knowledge, when we talk about the theory of knowledge, then we have to understand that any knowledge must have certain valid method and valid scope. And epistemology, Indian epistemology, it talks about 6 inferences, 6 pramana. Pramana means evidence. So 6 evidences have been considered by Indian philosophy or any philosophy of the world, basically given by India, and it is called 6 pramana. First one is the pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means perception. Whatever we can see it from our sensory organs, means whatever we can see, whatever we can hear, whatever we can smell, whatever we can sense, and whatever we can speak. So we have 5 sensory organs, and whatever thing we can just get it using our 5 sensory organs, that pramana is called pratyaksha. Okay, for example, there is a rain, there is a rainfall. How do I know it? Because I have seen it, it's raining. So I have seen it's raining, it means it is raining. That is a perception, it is pratyaksha. Second one is anumana. Okay. Anumana means somebody said that, okay, today in the night it was raining. But how did I know? I have not seen it. So I just came out of my home. I have seen all the roads are actually wet. So I have just made some inference. Okay, roads are wet. It means that there was rain in the night. Okay. Then comparison, apamana. Comparison. We have to compare with someone. How? Like, suppose if I ask you, those who have not seen Imarti, there is a sweet in North India, it's called Imarti. Like, have you seen Imarti? And suppose there is someone who has say that, okay, I have not seen Imarti. Then what I will say? Have you seen Jalebi? It looks like Jalebi. So I am trying to compare that Imarti with Jalebi, and then I am trying to draw some analogy using that comparison. So it is apamana. And the fourth one is the arthapatti, postulation. What is arthapatti? That I have to draw some inference postulates. And how? Because suppose I have to say that Mr. X is not studying in the daytime, or Mr. X, I have not seen Mr. X studying. Fine. When the result came, Mr. X was the topper of the college. So I have not seen Mr. X or Miss X studying throughout my life, but I have seen Mr. X is always topping in the exam. Now, what does it mean? Mr. X might be studying in the night. That is the postulate I have drawn. That I have not seen him studying during the daytime, but he is coming top. It means that he might be studying in the night when everybody used to sleep. Then anupalabdhi, non-apprehension. If I am not able to see anything, I am not able to deny anything. That is also one kind of pramana. Like, what is darkness? Darkness is absence of light. That is anupalabdhi. And the last one is the sabda pramana, verbal testimony. Like testimony of the experts. If the doctor is saying something that, okay, this person is suffering from this disease or that disease, that is because he is an expert in that field. We have to believe him. That is called sabda pramana. So these are the 6 pramanas in Indian philosophy given to the world, and the world is also accepting that. And those who are doing their PhD, you will also find that most of your research methodology part are actually coming around these 6 kind of evidences only. Then the last part is axiology. Axiology, there are 3 parts in the axiology, that is a morality, ethics and aesthetics. Morality deals with the question of what is right and what is wrong, what is good, what is evil. Okay. Then right and wrong, that also keeps on changing from time to time, from perspective to perspective, from person to person, and from place to place. I mean, whatever is good at one place may not be good at other place. Whatever is ethical, ethics is actually the value in action is called ethics. And whatever is ethical in one situation may not be ethical in another situation. And aesthetics is the sense of beauty. What is beautiful and what is ugly? That is also very much perceptual. And in the Indian philosophy, there are 2 basic approach of gaining knowledge. Indian knowledge system. One is the Spider-Man's approach and another is the honeybee approach. How honeybee used to collect nectar? It used to collect nectar from the garden, from the different flowers. It used to collect that nectar from sitting on the different flower to flower and flower and flower, and ultimately it is collecting its nectar and assembling at one place, and that becomes honey. So this is one way of looking at the any philosophy or any knowledge system. Another is the spider approach, that it is not collecting the knowledge, it is not collecting the data, it is not collecting the evidences and the variables from the society, from outside world, rather it is simply getting it from inside. So a spider is just trying to spider approach is like you are simply meditating and getting some knowledge, giving knowledge to the world from your inside out. Okay. So this is both the approaches are actually applicable for Indian knowledge system. When we talk about philosophy, most of it are actually that Spider-Man's approach, spider approach. And when we talk about other kinds of knowledge, because India have also contributed substantially to the medicine, to the astronomy, to the astrology, and sports and metallurgy, so many fields, and that knowledge is actually collected or developed using the honeybee approach. And when we talk about Indian philosophy, this includes the 6 orthodox schools. Already I have told you that Nyaya, Vaisesik, Sankhya Darshan, Yoga Darshan, Mimamsa and Vedanta, and the heterodox traditions. Here it is called heterodox and it is also called Nastik Darshan, Buddhism, Jainism and Charvak. Okay. Charvak philosophy, many of you, if you have not heard it, that most of us are actually Charvak in nature, that Redam Kritva Gritam Pivet. Avam Jivam Sukham Jivet, Redam Kritva Gritam Pivet, Vasmi Bhutasya Dehasya Punaragman Kuta. And these systems explode fundamental questions about existence, consciousness, reality, ethics, and liberation. And to cut short, all these 6 plus 3, 9 schools have explored basically the two questions. What is the ultimate reality? Whether it is the consciousness or it is the materialism. Somebody have talked about materialism, somebody have talked about materialism and consciousness both, and some philosophical schools have talked about only consciousness. And the consciousness is called in Sanskrit, you must have heard the word, the term Brahma, that consciousness is the Brahma. And again there is a discourse between a student and a teacher, that my teacher, he's asking, like, what is Brahma, what is consciousness? And the teacher is saying, Aham Brahmasmi, that I am Brahma. Then the student is asking, if you are Brahma, then who am I? And he is saying that, okay, Tattvamasi, you are also, thus you are also. If somebody has visited Sabrimala temple in Kerala, you will find that it is written Tattvamasi, thus you are, here it is, here you are, it is you. You are also part of that consciousness, the greater consciousness. And who we and you are, me and you, who are we? What is that actual thing that is residing within us? And it is Pragyanam Brahma, that Pragya, our consciousness, is the ultimate reality. Then when we talk about Indian knowledge system, we have to consider this science and mathematics, the contribution of India in science and mathematics. And India have a very significant contribution in science. We all know that जब जीरो दिया मेरे भारत ने दुनिया को तब गिनती आई, देता न दशमलव दुनिया को तो चांद पर जाना मुश्किल था, और धरती और चांद की दूरी का अनुमान लगाना मुश्किल था. Famous Manoj Kumar recently has passed away. The decimal system, it is given by India. The zero, it is given by India. The concept of zero. And my dear friends, just to imagine, had there been no zero, then how difficult would have been the number system and how difficult would have been the counting. Because prior to zero, the counting was only up to 9, from 1 to 9. And after 9, we do not have anything to represent 10, 11 and 12. Okay, so we have given the concept of zero, and from zero we have developed that number system. And from us, and one thing, that why this number, this 1 2 3 4, that normally we used to write, and in computer if you find, you will find the computer will say that is an Arabic number. And if it is Arabic number, then what India have to do with that? Very simple question. And the reason is because there was a trade between India and Europe. And it is not that Vasco da Gama came in the year 1498 and at that time India came into existence and India came into the limelight for the world. India was there, my friend. And if someone is asking you a question like, who discovered India? The question is wrong. Fine. The right question would be, who discovered the sea route from Europe to India? And it is Vasco da Gama. India was already there, and there was a trade between India and Europe via Arabs. Arab was in the middle. Taking the route of Central Asia from Jammu and Kashmir. If you just go above it, you will go to the Pak occupied Kashmir, then Gilgit Baltistan. From Gilgit Baltistan, if you just go above, you will go to that Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and then to the Arab world. That is Saudi Arabia, and from there you will go to Turkey, and from Turkey is the gateway to Europe. Okay, so from Europe to Turkey and then Arabs and then India, that was the trade route. And the Arabs, that is the Middle East at present, they were actually in the middle, and this Europeans used to deal with the Arabs used to deal with the Indians, and Arabs have learned that number system from India. That 1 2 3 4 5 up 0 and decimal everything, Arabs have learned it from India, and from Arabs Europeans have learned it, and Europeans started calling it as Arabic number. That is the etymology of the term Arabic number. And Arabs also know that this is not their number. They admit it, like everywhere it is written, it's documented, nothing controversial. Arabic number is basically Indian number, but the Europeans started calling it Arabic number because Europeans learned it from Arabs. Okay, and place value system, that is decimal and place value, trigonometry, advancement in algebra and calculus, Aryabhatta, Brahmagupta, Bhaskaracharya, all these are the different names in science and mathematics. There is a Malayali movie. There is a Malayali movie. I do not remember the name of that movie, but you can identify it. The Hindi movie of Salman Khan, Bodyguard, is the remaking of that Malayali movie. And in that original Malayali movie, there is a dialogue, because those who have seen that the movie of Salman Khan must be knowing that Salman Khan used to be the bodyguard of the actress, and the actress used to go to the college, and there is a scene of college classroom where a teacher is teaching and asking question to the students that who discovered law of gravitation, who have given the theory of gravitation, and the student is saying in Hindi, I have seen the dubbed version, that वैसे तो भास्कराचार्य ने की थी उसकी खोज, लेकिन आप नंबर तभी दोगे जब मैं न्यूटन बोलूंगा तो न्यूटन ने की थी. Okay, very significant that the law of gravitation was invented or discovered by Bhaskaracharya, but ultimately we have destroyed all those knowledge. Why Nalanda University was burned? And there was so much of the books in the Nalanda University library that that library actually keep on burning for almost 3 months. So much of the books were there. And why somebody have destroyed that library? Because if somebody is jealous of feeling jealous of us, then definitely they will be trying to destroy our value system, our library, our treasure. And if you will just burn that library, everything will be lost. Astronomy, sophisticated understanding of planetary movement, celestial mechanics, and timekeeping. So these are, yes, yes. Any
Sorry, sir. I request participant Sangeeta Kochia ma'am, please mute yourself. Yes, sir, please.
Okay, please.
I'm sorry for the disturbance, sir.
No
I'm
problem.
trying to mute from my side.
So this sophisticated understanding of planetary movement, and I'm just giving you one thing. This sloka, I think all the Sanatani Hindu, whosoever have sit on puja and while doing this Navagrah Pujan must have recited or chanted this mantra. Brahma Murarischa Purantakari Bhanu Sasi Bhumi Suto Budascha Guruscha Sukra Sani Rahu Ketava Kurvantu Sarvemam Suprabhatam. Now, this is Navagrah Pujan, and I'm just trying to bring your attention to this word Bhumi Sutta. Okay, Bhanu is sunny, sun, Sasi is moon, Bhumi Sutta. Who is Bhumi Sutta? Buddhascha, Guruscha, Sukra is okay known. Buddha, that is a Mercury, Guruscha, Jupiter, Sukra, Venus, Sunny, Saturn. But Bhumi Sutta is for Mars, and we are trying to find that whether there is some life on Mangal, on Mars, because we believe that the planet Mars has been evolved, have been bifurcated out of Earth only. It means Bhumi is Earth, Sutta means sun. So Mars is the sun of Earth. It has been bifurcated, it has been immersed, it has been separated from Earth only. So it is Bhumi Sutta. And that's why many people in our India, in North India, say Mangalwar as the Bhovar. Bhovar, like Bhovar. Fine. So this itself is a testimony of the fact that how developed our astronomy was, that our ancestors were knowing that Mars is emerged, Mars has been separated out of Earth only. What we have come to know right now, or we are still trying to find out whether some similarity is there on Mars and Earth, and scientists have found that in between Earth and Mars there is so much of the similarity. Metallurgy is another branch of Indian knowledge system, and India have contributed significantly. Whatever the old structures we have, even in Delhi we have some iron pillar, and in other places, that metallurgy we have such a sophisticated knowledge we had, that still it is one wonders in the world. Chemistry we have, physics. Okay, so early atomic theories, Vaisesika school, Bhaskaracharya. Okay, concept of motion, time and space we have given. Uh, that is physics. And there was a movie, Hollywood movie, Oppenheimer, and in that movie there is a scene when that the scientist Oppenheimer is with his girlfriend, and then his girlfriend all of a sudden, her eyes go to a book, and she asks, what is this book? And he said, this is Bhagavad Gita. Okay, what is this? So he said, I'm trying to read it, I'm getting so much of the knowledge from this Bhagavad Gita. And later on, when the Oppenheimer was interviewed, and he said that I got the idea of atom bomb, okay, from the several Bhagavad Gita verses from the 11th chapter, such as this is the word he has uttered, death, I am the death, cause of destruction of the world, and this he has simply get it from the Bhagavad Gita. Then medicine, a holistic system of medicine focusing on balancing the body's three dosa. And Indian knowledge system, that is Ayurveda, it believes that there are three kind of dosas in our body, that is Vata, Pitta and Kapha. Vata, Pitta and Kapha, and if we are able to control these three dosas, we are able to do many things. We can just cure many of the diseases. And then Indian medicine, it talks about lifestyle, it talks about herbal remedies, and it talks about therapeutic procedures, and it talks about surgical advancement as well. In Susrut Samhita, there are two books in Indian knowledge system. One is the Charak Samhita and another is the Susrut Samhita. Charak Samhita is actually talks about medicines, and Susrut Samhita talks about the surgery. A few thousand years back, Susrut Samhita, okay, how to do surgery was written in India, Susrut, Acharya Susrut. Linguistic and grammar, Vyakaran. Panini is a creator of Sanskrit and known father of linguistics. And when we talk about language and Sanskrit, one thing I would like to just tell to this august gathering and the learned audience, that we are talking about this artificial intelligence and artificial knowledge and AI, so many things we are talking about. If I say that Sanskrit was the first artificial language of the world, then many people will be surprised and say that how is it possible? We started talking about AI recently, and I'm not talking anything like out of the context. At the beginning, I told you that while talking about the logic, that inductive logic and deductive logic. And what is inductive logic? It is from practice to theory, and deductive logic from inductive theory to practice, and inductive is from logic to theory, from practice to theory. And how actually it is fitting in the context of language? The language is, and the answer is, all the languages of the world, first of all, language came, and then its grammar was written. Okay, first people started talking in Bangla, and then Bangla grammar was compiled. Then Tamil grammar was compiled. Telugu, then Telugu grammar was compiled. Hindi and Hindi grammar was compiled. Sanskrit is the only language whose grammar was written first and then it was put to practice. And from that perspective, it is the artificial language. Its grammar was written first and then it was put to practice. And that's why you will find that in Sanskrit language there is no abusive words, no gali in Sanskrit. Or Sanskrit specific galis are only to that person, not to his family, not to his mother and sister or father. Okay, so that is the beauty of Sanskrit language, artificial language. Arts and aesthetics encompassing musics, so many music, Karnataki and Hindustani dance forms, architecture, various architecture. If you just see some of the architecture, some of the temple architecture of the world, uh, everywhere, like in some Rajasthan, some Vietnam, then Cambodia, in South India, some of the architectures, you will be just mesmerized. What was that architecture a few hundred and thousand years back? Okay, still we are not able to do that. Okay, sculptures, painting, dramaturgy, Natya Shastra, and these forms were often intertwined with spiritual and philosophical concepts, political science and economics. Kautilya Arthashastra. We say that uh, Adam Smith is the father of economics. Those who are from economics background or the management and commerce also will know that Adam Smith is known as the father of economics, and the first paper that Adam Smith has written is in the year 1776, and the name of the paper was An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nations. Okay, 1776 means 18th century first paper of economics was written. Then Kautilya, the Chanakya Arthashastra, it was written 2300 years back. Okay, 2300, roughly 2300 to 2400 years back, Chanakya's Arthashastra was written. Such a huge fundamental contribution to the pool of knowledge. And I am just using the logo of income tax department. And why this logo, this sloka, Kos Mulo Danda, Kos Mulo Danda, that is, Kos means खजाना, जितना powerful होगा, that खजाना is the pillar of any economy, any administration, Kos Mulo Danda. And this Kos Mulo Danda, this line is taken from the Kautilya's Arthashastra. Okay. And Kautilya's Arthashastra is not only about the economics, it talks about economic policy, it talks about military strategy, it talks about legal systems, it talks about sociology, it talks about public administration, all. And why? Because there was no compartmentalization at that time between the different departments. Like there is a department of economics, department of sociology, department of law, department of military studies, department of public administration. No, because there was no compartmentalization, and this is one such unique feature of Indian knowledge system. Yoga and spirituality, known to everyone. Then let us come to this characteristics of Indian knowledge system. And what is that characteristics? Holism and interdisciplinarity. That Indian knowledge system is holistic. It is interdisciplinarity. When we talk about economics, it's not only economics. It talks about sociology as well. It talks about military strategy as well. It talks about public administration and legal system as well. And that's why the knowledge was not compartmentalized. Okay. And philosophy, science, arts, and spirituality were often interconnected. And our new education policy 2020 also talks about the same thing, that knowledge should not be compartmentalized, and there is disciplinarity and multidisciplinarity and interconnectedness of the knowledge. This NEP 2020 talks about and it is basically the one of the very substantial and significant feature of Indian knowledge system, and it emphasizing a holistic understanding of the universe and human existence. Then Indian knowledge system, it emphasis on experience and practice. It is not completely based on theory, it is always based on experience and practice. And that's why in India there was a concept of Gurukula, that in Gurukul all the students and the teachers will be residing together and they will be learning. And one thing, that all these Gurukulas were free from the state support. Reason being, if state or the king would start supporting these Gurukulas, then they will no longer be independent of their ideology or independent in their functioning. And that's why it was compulsory that the society will be funding all those institutes. And that's why the students who are studying in those institutions, in those Gurukuls, they used to go for Bhiksha from door to door, and whatever is being collected, they used to eat, and based on that collection only the entire Gurukul used to run. The core was that society is funding those Gurukulas, not the state, not the king is funding those Gurukulas. It is the society which is funding those Gurukulas. And they are accountable to the society, not accountable to the king. That was the beauty. Then oral tradition and memorization, already at the beginning I told that it is a Shruti and Smriti. Okay? Critical view of time. Yeah, cyclical view of time. Yeah, this is one very basic thing, a significant difference between. Hello?
Sorry, sir. I suppose somebody's Megha
Now,
Patil.
with respect to the concept of time, this is the basic difference between the Indian knowledge system and Western knowledge system, or Indian philosophy or Western philosophy, or Indian view of life and Western view of life. And what is that? It's a cyclical. Western philosophy, they consider time as a linear entity. Indian knowledge system consider time, believes that time is a cyclical variable. Time is cyclical. Whatever has gone, it will again come back. And that's why we believe in the concept of karma. Whatever karma you will be doing, that will come to you. And that is the cyclical view of time, not linear view of time. That is the basic difference between the Indian philosophy and the Western philosophy. For us, the time is cyclical, and for them, the time is linear. Whatever has gone, it will not come to you ever in your future. Future is different, past was different. For us, it is cyclical. That's the basic difference between Indian philosophy and Western philosophy, or Indian knowledge and Western knowledge. And now, having talked about all these things, now what is the contemporary relevance? Why are we studying Indian knowledge system, or why do we need to know Indian knowledge system at present? And the reason is, entire world is suffering from, or talking about, or discussing the concept of sustainable practices. We have started to believe, the world has started to believe and discuss that whatever the practices we are doing, it is not going to sustain in future, and that's why we need to do something. We need to adopt certain practices which will be sustainable in future as well. But Indian knowledge system, it has told to the world, it has talked earlier that whatever practices we were doing, that was sustainable, and if we have to remain sustainable in future as well, we have to adopt Indian knowledge, Indian practices. Holistic health and well-being. Ayurveda and yoga are recognized worldwide for their benefits in promoting physical and mental health without having any side effect. So if we practice Ayurveda and yoga, the probability is that we will be leading a very healthy life, both physically and mentally, and ultimately that will lead to the sustainable livelihood. Interdisciplinary approach, the NEP 2020 also talks about interdisciplinarity. So inherent interdisciplinarity of Indian knowledge system can inspire new models of education and research, and fostering integrated solutions. Cognitive science and AI, ancient Indian logical and linguistic frameworks, particularly Panini's grammar, are being explored for their relevance to artificial intelligence and NLP. And cultural identity and heritage. Of course, we are Indian and we will be knowing with our practices, with our knowledge only. Somebody was talking 10 years back, I just seen their interview, that India, if it has to dominate in the world, if it has to influence in the world, India cannot be a money power, India cannot be the hard power, India cannot be the military power in the world. Rather, India can influence the world, India can change the world with its soft power. India can be the soft power, and Indian knowledge system is one such thing, that India can be a soft power. And why Indian knowledge system have disappeared? One region is the tacit domain. Tacit is, we are not able to express it through writing. Most of our knowledges were practice based, not able to express it. Multilingual forms, then illiteracy contributed significantly to it, because later on, because of our foreign invasions and our own gurukuls and our own societal system were destroyed, and we were not able to continue our system. Cultural barriers, fear of biopiracy, idea robbery, large-scale urbanization, breakdown of joint family system, recognition of practitioners of traditional knowledge. Hello?
I request Mr. Chitranjan to please mute your. Sir, please. Sorry for the disturbance. Himanshu, please mute him. Sorry, sir. Sorry for the inconvenience, sir. So carry on, sir, please.
So, like many of these regions, and if you just see again, try to find out the metaphysics of that, you will find that that large scale invasion, both intellectually and militarily, actually are one of the reasons for the disappearance of our Indian knowledge system, because ideas were robbed, biopiracy, cultural barriers, literacy, multilingual forms, they were not problems. This knowledge was in practice, it was present from the 1,000 years, but for the last a few hundred years, because of some systematic attacks on our society, on our culture, we are not able to hold this Indian knowledge system. What we should do, one project we are running at our IIITA, this grassroots innovations at IIITA, and what we used to do, that whatever the grassroots level innovations and grassroots level practices are being practiced at anywhere in the world or anywhere in India, just to solve even a small problem, we are simply trying to document it, and we are just trying to upload it on our YouTube channel so that the idea can be preserved. And we are able to identify at least 59 such ideas, which we have put it on this YouTube channel. This is the link of this YouTube channel. We can just find it out. So similarly, if we have to save those ideas, indigenous knowledge system, we have to document it, we have to protect it, we have to incentivize it. Then only we will be able to promote our Indian, first of all identify, then protect, and then promote our Indian knowledge system. And another thing is that fighting the narrative war. What is the narrative war? This photograph is of William Shakespeare, and this photograph is of Kalidas. Okay, and what kind of narrative were just built? That Kalidas was started to be called as the Shakespeare of the East. But my dear friend, Kalidas happened 2,500 years back. Shakespeare happened only 500 years back. And instead of calling William Shakespeare as the Kalidas of the East, Kalidas of the West, we are calling Kalidas as the Shakespeare of the East. This is the narrative. So whenever from now onward anybody used to just try to speak something in these lines, just condemn that person, stop that person then and there. Like if somebody is saying that Kalidas is the Shakespeare of the East, stop that person then and there and say that Shakespeare was the Kalidas of the West. Kalidas is not the Shakespeare of the East. And then only we'll be able to build something for our Indian knowledge system, and we'll be able to save our Indian knowledge system. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Thanks for your patient listening. Thank you.
Very, very engaging and insightful, sir, session, sir. I really mesmerized. Wondrous, wondrous. So your lecture was not